Hello, and welcome to the Swatches live stream. I'm Clint, this is Diana, and if this is your first time, appreciate you coming by. We're both illustrators, art instructors, and art directors with Swatches, and we're going to be looking at your submitted portfolios today. This is episode number 22.
Can you let us know in the chat if the audio is okay, if you're able to see us and hear us?
Yeah, everything's looking okay from YouTube. So yeah, we're going to just spend a minute going over a couple of announcements, and then we're going to get into the portfolios. There are 6 portfolios that we're going to be looking at today, and I've already prepped a couple of paint overs and draw overs, so we'll be looking at those as we get through the portfolios. But if you guys have any questions, then feel free to just put them in the chat. We've got it up on our other monitor. We'll be keeping an eye on that, and we'll try to answer your live questions as we go through. I've got to move this screen a little closer. I might be able to mess with it right there. There we go. Okay, Lillian is here. Appreciate you letting us know that we're coming through okay.
Yeah, I expect we won't have as many viewers as usual because this is a Monday. We normally don't do the stream on Monday, but we're not able to do it on our usual day because of classes, so we're just using the days that we have available.
Okay, a couple of points before we get into the artwork. Number one, if you enjoy these streams, then understand that we only cover about 5% of the topics that we're going over in a stream. If you really want to get the full explanation on all this stuff, really be able to practice it, see transformation in your own work, then you do need to go check out the full courses. That's on swatchesacademy.com. Now, right now for February, we are running a special on the material rendering course, which is teaching you just how to paint a lot of the most common materials in a very believable and reliable method. We can keep having groups from Blizzard and Playgo that go through there. They send their teams of artists through that course in order to sharpen their painting skills. I've got some right now that we're going through with. So if you want to take the same training that artists from those companies go through, then check it out and you can save $40 for the next couple of weeks. Okay, I think that's the only thing we're going to hit on as far as news.
Oh, someone did ask in the Discord about the next art challenge, and so that is coming next month. We haven't announced the theme yet, but yeah, it'll be happening in March, or across March and part of April.
Yeah. Okay. All right, these are the portfolios we're going to be looking at. And if you are here and getting your portfolio reviewed, you are one of these artists, let us know in the chat so that we can maybe have a little back and forth with you. But otherwise, this is the order that we're going to be going in.
I did see a few people, maybe 2 or 3, that said they were going to watch the replay because they're in a very different time zone and it's very late for them. So maybe half of them will show up. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, we're going to start with Anne and read Anne's comments. Then we'll take a look at her art. She said that she's looking for some guidance because she feels like I am stagnating a bit with my portfolio. I've hit a bit of an art block, and hopefully we can give her some notes. Recent graduate from the animation workshop in Denmark, where you have a bachelor's in animation, went to computer graphics, been involved in everything like 3D layouts, storyboards. Passionate about games, however, and have been focusing on character design pipeline. Would love to branch out a bit more, maybe add some more illustration. Not sure what the best move is, how to push my stuff artistically, and would love to hear your thoughts Been looking for an entry-level position as a junior, but nothing steady has come up yet. Okay. We'll circle back to that in a minute, but the portfolio is right here. We glanced at these earlier, but we're going to go through them together with you guys so that you know what we're looking at. As usual, what we want to look at first is the overall portfolio. Is it easy to access? Is it difficult to access? What do we see from just the broad view before we get into individual pieces of artwork? What are we looking at this stage, and what's standing out to you?
Okay, so I don't know which, you mentioned, Anne, that you're applying to different junior roles. I don't know which companies you're applying to, so I can't say, it's more this way or that, that way in terms of style. But just in a broad sense, if I was a recruiter looking through your portfolio submission and I saw this, now normally what I do is, and a lot of, I would say maybe most recruiters do this, is they basically judge you on the first 2 rows of your art station. You don't go further down, and many times if they don't see what they're looking for in the thumbnail, they're not even going to click them.
Yes.
So, on that note, what's the issue just at the thumbnail level? The issue here is we're getting a lot of different things that don't clearly say this person is an expert at this one thing. So we're getting like some very stylized kind of line art character work here. This clearly looks mobile games oriented. This looks a little bit more realistic. But then this looks sort of cartoony, stylized. We have an environment design, a concept, another kind of fantasy illustration. Got some creatures that look a little bit alien. And then we've got something that looks like a very Disney style of sort of biz dev. So kind of all these things are different from each other, and none of them send a clear message like, I am an expert at this, I am the person that you need. Problem with this is if you apply to a studio like this, they're going to see all this stuff that is not applicable to them, and they're going to favor a person that has a portfolio solely of this stuff over you, because they're going to say that person's really committed to the type of work we need.
Yeah.
The same thing with illustration. If you're applying for illustration, they're going to only see 2 illustrations, and they're kind of different styles, and the rest is not illustration. It's not what they need. So that's just broad strokes, like what you see at a glance from the thumbnails. Now we can look into each of the projects and kind of give a technical overview.
But it's always worth remembering that the industry is interested in hiring experts. They're not interested in people who have a general idea of a thing, but who are experts in that thing. And that's important because right now the industry is it has so many people in it and so many people trying to get into it that you really have to be outstanding in whatever your subject is to really have a fighting chance to win a commission or a job over someone else. So let's start flipping through some of these, and then I think I'll have a piece or 2 to pull up in Photoshop here in a minute. So like you said, we have some line art, some stylization, and you do have some good stuff here. Like, this is nice and clean. It's well drawn. I like that you didn't go for the full painted render. You're sticking with more of a cell kind of shaded, simple, rendering to it. That works fine for this sort of line art. The full process here is good. All right, you're going through the full thing. You're doing variations. You got head variations. You got color variations. So that's good. You got turnarounds. Turnarounds are great. You're taking your time. This is weaker, so we got to call out things that are and things that are good. This page is kind of bringing this whole spread down. I would recommend removing it. And I guess this is may be beneficial, but honestly, you're covering up almost all of the good stuff, which is the character. So I feel like even if you're going to put it on there, there's probably a better way to arrange that. As far as the character design, I, there are places that it could be improved. We can't go into each character though.
No.
Okay. So yeah, same thing. It's exactly what Diana just said. This feels like a totally different artist aiming for a totally different thing. And you're likely to have better results if you just double down in one direction. And that's what I'll come back to. Again, we got character designs. What you want to focus on is totally just dependent on you. Don't let the industry dictate that, because you don't want to end up putting in loads and loads of time in a subject that you don't have any interest in.
Mm-hmm.
You'll burn out, you won't make it. So if it's characters, then great, just do characters. If it's creature design, do creatures. If it's environments, do environments. They are all going to be difficult to do at a really high level. So pick the one that you actually like.
What I'm kind of picking up on from your portfolio, and I hope I'm not extrapolating more than is there, but what I'm picking up on is that you are maybe hesitant to commit to any one thing 100% because you don't know which one is more likely to yield a job. So you're kind of doing a little bit of everything. There's the mobile games thing, there's the stylized characters, the more realistic stuff, there's the environment design. And the truth is, anything that you specialize in is a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
There are no guarantees, no matter what. But specializing, becoming an expert at something almost always yields more results than, not specializing in anything, kind of spreading yourself a little bit in every direction. It's a lot harder to catch something. Oh, yeah, you're going to explain.
So let me give you a little visual. And this goes for everyone. All right, this is not unique to Anne, and this is relevant for you, which is, think about this as a side view of a container, and it's got 4 different compartments in here. And what we're doing is we're filling it up essentially with our hours of study, right? And the artwork that we're creating. And we'll call this the industry threshold, right? This line right here. Look, in order to be competitive at anything, you've got to hit a certain level. We'll call that level. Now, each one of these is something different. Maybe this is character design, and this is creature design, and this is illustrations, like just full, let's say, fantasy illustrations, and this is environments. Okay. What you're doing right now is you're going, okay, I'm going to put an hour here, and then an hour here, and an hour here, and an hour here, and you just keep doing that. Well, that's a problem, because had you already just put all of those in one, you'd already be good enough to be competitive in one of those subjects. But because you keep spreading it out and being undecided.
It's kind of even more categories.
Yeah, you've actually got more than that.
We've got mobile games, we've got illustration.
Yeah, you've got like cartoons down here. And you've got something else. There's some other subject.
It's like viz dev.
Yeah, you've got like viz dev down here. So you're getting your available hours, and you're dividing it into too many topics, and it concerns me a bit, because what you say over here is, I'd like to branch out a bit more. No. If you want results, you need to do the opposite. You need to focus. Now that means that you have to choose something to say no to, right? And that's fine for a while.
You can always pick it up.
Yes.
It's not like it's gone off the face of the earth. It's just for right now. If your goal is to get hired, then you have to have expertise in one area. And right now what we're seeing across the images is that you have potential, there's skills there, but there's kind of issues with each image that they're not really, none of them are competitive. And I feel like that's because you're not really spending enough time in that area becoming an expert at those things. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. It's not a matter of take this piece out or do more of this. It's more, you need to think about what do you enjoy doing the most? What can you see yourself doing 8 hours a day for the next 20 years? Is it little houses like this? If it's environments, then focus on that. If it's creatures, then focus on the creatures, but just pick an area to really be an expert in and be competitive. It's like we have to get a foothold somewhere.
Become competitive at something, and then as time goes, as you are continuing with your career, then you're going to start adding more things to it. But it's very difficult, very slow to start your career being competitive at 5 different subjects and concept art and illustration and viz dev and environments and characters and creatures. And I'll say this though, this is actually a pretty common issue that we see is people who aren't getting traction in their career. They're not sure what to do and they go, well, I must not be throwing a broad enough net.
Yeah,
and
everybody does that to some degree at the beginning.
So we're going to just point out a couple of things on this, and then we will move to the next portfolio. But for this one, as far as just the page layout, one of the things you may want to avoid going forwards is redundancy. I wrote that down here. Is that if we already have the full finished image of the character right here, I don't need the line work of him right here. Like I can see the character. It's not really telling me anything that I don't already have. And the same thing for the face. Unless you're going to do a higher level of render on the face, or whether you're going to show the head from a different angle, then again, that's redundant. And I would just say remove it. Keep it tighter, more concise with what you're covering. The next thing is just making sure whatever subject you decide to go with, do your research. Know what your competitors are doing. Not that you're obsessing over them, but they are literally the people that you're going to be compared against when you send in your resume or send in your portfolio. We had a call for artists to submit to our studio, and we had to look at this one. Is this person better than this one? Is this person better than this one? And only the top person got brought in.
That's why we recommend go out there and see who are the other juniors that are getting out of school. Look at their portfolios, because literally those are the people applying for the same exact jobs you're applying for. And so the recruiter is going to weigh their portfolio against yours every time. Like there's no getting away from it. And I'm not saying, oh, go look at it so you can copy them. I'm saying go look at it so you see how they have their layout, how professional they are, what's their level of finish, and how you compare to them in terms of quality. And if you're not as good, then you need to push, right?
Yep. So this piece is by Oscar Bagalini. I do not know them. They are a graduate from New Edge Concept Art. And a lot of great students and portfolios come out of New Edge. If you're interested in character concept art, then those are one of the places that you ought to go look at who is graduating and what does their graduating portfolio looks like, because that is who's also going to be submitting their portfolios to the clients.
These people are in 2-year programs at this school. So they're not really comparable to our school. Our school is like standalone courses. This is a full post-secondary program. And so they're there for quite a lot of time in doing intensive study. But when they come out, they're going to apply for the junior positions. So this is why we're saying, and we have no affiliation with this school, by the way. This is just information we're sharing, If you want to see what their grads look like, what the portfolios look like, go on ArtStation to New Edge School, and they frequently post a lot of their student work there on the account, and you can judge for yourself the quality of the people coming out of there. And a lot of the times, I've heard people say, well, they might not apply, or how do you know I'm competing with them? And it's like, there are limited jobs in this industry. You can bet anything you want that at least one New Edge grad is going to apply for whatever job you apply for. So it does make sense to go check it out.
As far as the render, I would encourage you that unless it needs to be a proper scene, if you're just doing a character design, you're doing essentially the beauty shot of the character design, it's probably going to be faster to paint and less trouble to paint if you do a more indirect light. And that's what we have over here. It's a very soft light. There's very little light shadow pattern. What you're mainly getting is just occlusion shadows that are up underneath things and in little, pinch points between elements. And over here what we're getting is a lot more contrast, really sharp light and shadow distinction. And this is just trickier to pull off because you really, really need to know all the forms. And it's harder to do realistically without a really accurate reference. Whereas a fictional one can be done this way and still look pretty good with minimal references. Just same sort of approach done by Sid Mead.
Or not Sid Mead, that's Igor Sid.
Oh, sorry, not Sid Mead. Igor Sid. And you can see, again, kind of an ambient light, really just from the front down.
Yeah, just hitting those occlusions.
Yeah. Occlusion. I had somebody else here. Oh, yeah. And this is just a nice page. I thought the page layout here is something to take some cues from. So they have another head, but it's the head from a different angle. So we're giving the audience some more information.
Yeah, about how things are layered on from that side.
And it's just, there's one front view. I don't need the lines of the same thing because it's already nice and clean visually, so I can tell. This does make sense if there's some large element that covers part of the character design. Then, yeah, you can have another smaller version to the side where you show what's underneath it. Then any key design elements on the character ought to be pulled out if they're significant to them. So, Raid Shadow Legends, also a great place to look up sheets for character designs.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Okay, and that's our notes for you. I hope that that's helpful. Like Diana said, you've got some good skills in here. I just feel like you're kind of being pulled in a lot of different directions by your different interests, probably be inspired by different things you've seen online, and then whatever projects you're just able to pick up, you're sort of, grabbing whatever you can. But long term, it's going to be better if you can pick a direction, pick a subject, double down on that. Yeah, that would be my plan if I was in your shoes.
I still think that that's overall the best way to build a name and a career over a long span of time is to really niche max. I use that max as a suffix. It's very popular right now, I've heard. So if you niche max, you become an expert at whatever it is that you really like, whether it's, being the creature guy, like Bobby Revholz is the creature guy, right? And likewise, specializing in one area and really just filling your portfolio with works of that type will just strengthen the perception of you as an expert in that subject, whatever it might be.
Okay, let's go to the second portfolio. We have Esther. Now, Esther, you wrote some stuff here for us. Been watching the reviews for a while. Well, we appreciate that. I've been working as a freelance illustrator for a few years, mostly doing private professional commissions, fantasy fair. Want to start getting your portfolio out, do more TTRPG, board games, Pathfinder, that sort of stuff. Been more focused on characters, tried your hand at larger scenes, but don't feel like you're quite there with your skills. That's a valid self-assessment. It's good to recognize when something's not quite up to snuff. So my question would be, what do you think about my portfolio? Any red flags or blind spots? What should you be focusing on right now? Such as just material rendering or lighting, or should you expand the scope of your scenes?
Mm-hmm.
Esther, excellent questions for where you're at. I totally get that. You're asking the right stuff. So we'll give you our notes, and maybe that'll just help you for a next step or two. Right here. Okay, from a broad view, it's a pretty good read when I'm glancing at your portfolio. I am getting a distinct evenness to the painting styles and to the subject matter. We're not getting a cartoon over here and a vehicle design and like an illustration.
Yeah, I feel like
right?
it's pretty clear what it is that you do, that you're interested in, and it's pretty consistent across the board, which I really like. I like that you have a style. You're not confused about your style. So that's really good to see.
So I don't know if some of these are yours. I think a lot of this is just your designs and not for a client. So again, I've got some PSD stuff we'll pull up, but some really solid painting and skills going on here. I'm not familiar really with the story of the children and her in from Tolkien, other than the fact that it is Tolkien. So complicated scene. There's a lot going on here. We're going to jump into that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're doing a lot of stuff right, but there are a few things overall that you can do that is going to help it. Let's pull this guy up first. Looking at this piece, some really nice rendering, a lot of controlled palette, controlled values, nice clean rendering. I
love some of the details here on your materials, on your costuming, like the stitches on the side of the pants. Isn't that nice?
All kinds of nice stuff there, and I don't feel like you were trying to skimp on the background.
Mm-hmm.
There was a particular style and look that you were going for, and you're developing like all these little stones in the water and stuff. So that's all working for you, but there are some things that's kind of just detracting away. The first is, I'm going to start with this guy over here. His pose really catches me. I don't know how you ended up with this pose. I don't know if this was... I almost feel like you had a photo of somebody in a similar pose and you made some adjustments to it.
It's hard to know.
Because I just thought it seemed odd, so I got in front of the camera to try to match the same pose, and it's pretty unnatural, like to make yourself stand like that. So a piece of advice to everyone is try to put yourself in the pose of whatever your character is doing in the scene. It's a really quick way to tell if something's off as to whether you can even stand that way. So just trying to mimic that would have revealed that there is something that needs to be tweaked here. In particular, having the elbow essentially turned out away from the body instead of going back and coming forwards like this. It's just an unnatural way to do it. So had we been able to make that adjustment early on, that would have been great. Now it would take a fair amount of effort to try to change it. We're also talking about the torso. I was out to you about that
Yeah,
earlier.
this isn't feeling right to me because it feels like it's kind of caving in the way it's rendered. I feel like you want some more of this going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you kind of have the belt and he's folding over, so there's kind of some anatomy missing in here, and we kind of should have all these things barreling outward.
Yeah.
Also, I think that should go like
we're
that.
kind of losing the center line. It feels like it's going back to the side, and then.
I think this is it's a side tunic though. It's not.
Oh, maybe it
centered.
is.
Yeah, but in that case, I would move it more to the side so that we don't get that that confusion. So something like this. Not forgetting the form, right? Like that's kind of the issue. I also feel like this might be very large, very thick. Here, this thickness might be too much. So it's something that again, we're operating on assumption. I don't know what your reference was like for that guy. For everybody watching, you definitely want to troubleshoot this stuff before you start rendering, because then if it's after, then it's so much more destructive and requires more repainting to fix things like this. So yeah, maybe double check your forms and your poses before, you know, the final render stage.
And the same goes for the composition. That if you're going to take the effort to craft an image with this much love, this much resolution, then we can get a lot more out of it by making composition and pose changes versus more time painting details. And right now, the composition basically focuses the attention right here. That's the focal point, because everything lines up to this area. Everything's kind of like bending here.
Yeah,
She's looking here.
Everything's pointing there.
Everything's pointing here. Everything's bringing you back to this area, and there's no payoff.
There's nothing there. So I think what would have maybe, you can correct me if you disagree, but I think it would have been maybe better to just make this person the focal point, the center of the image, and then had this guy maybe further back here, you know, in the background, maybe a couple of guys in the background, and have this person be the center figure of the image. There's a lot of solutions, right? But this is just one potential solution, because you have to be careful when you're composing a scene that you're not pointing people to an empty space.
I haven't tried this earlier, but one of the things that I would consider trying is you don't have to put that bright spot right in the middle, right? So say that we got this guy. This is obviously just a very rough cutout of the guy. We move him back. Now we get some overlap, and now we put the bright behind him. And we're using the dynamic that this character shows up well because she's receiving light, right? So she's like a light on a darker background with all of this, and potentially having even more light on the body up here. And then we got a brighter background here, but he's more dark against it. All right, so we can boost that up a little bit. And that allows him to stand out using the opposite set of values of dark against light. I would also change that so her arm is not fully back. It needs to be like bent a little bit.
I would also have him like looking towards here. He's looking off frame.
Leading the eye off frame is a little odd. It would be better if he was like looking down, or at least we can see a little bit of the eye kind of coming back, or that
there's many solutions. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways you could.
You know, if you have the arrow drawn as he's walking, that would be interesting.
That would be good.
So that's a thought there. On this one, attention has been given pretty much to everything on the scene. It's been given a once over, have a lower opacity there. But for as all of the good painting and some of the material rendering, like on the leather and stuff, the thing that stands out as an issue is this guy's anatomy and proportions. You just can't get around that he has really odd proportions in posing. And it makes me feel like you made up the pose. I don't know if you did, but something's definitely
It just feels
off.
very strained here in the neck.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't feel like someone would sit like that comfortably. So this guy is basically fine. He doesn't have that issue.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm not quite sure about this leg going back like this.
Mm-hmm.
It would maybe go more forward.
Yeah, it would be here. And
so
then
again,
back.
try sitting in these poses yourself before committing, you know, just trying him out, because I feel like this leg would come forward. But here, yeah, the first thing I noticed when I saw this image wasn't, oh, that's a cute scene of some card game. No, it's this neck is what caught me right away, and it's what any recruiter or AD would see. And it's a shame because you have so much beautiful rendering and painting.
Okay, some points there, and
yeah, I have to say again, your painting style, your rendering style is great. I love it. So I hope you don't think this is discouraging at all. We're trying to encourage you to keep going.
Yes.
You're doing a good job, and your work is good. But if you want to reach those clients, like you were saying, then these are things that have to be addressed.
It's the same thing that we tell our team members all the time and our students, which is the 10% more. If you can start thinking about what is it that I can do to get 10% more out of this, and not just overall, but be specific. So the other one was saying, if we could get 10% more out of the composition, what would you do? Oh, we'd shift this guy back, you'd shift that over. 10% more out of the values, you'd boost the light here, you'd boost the light there. 10% more out of the pose, you'd move the elbow here, right? And usually none of those in themselves will make or break an image, but they can level the entire image up collectively. So like on this one, quite good. It's got good rendering, but I also feel like it's sitting at like 85% of where it could be.
Also, just be aware when you do a close-up like this, where you get like the, half body, you don't get the whole character and you really don't get much of an environment. It's basically a portrait, right? You really got to bump the resolution on these things that are close up because it's a close-up, right? So we need, I don't mean exhaustive detail, but just a little bit more definition.
Yeah, I agree. More definition, a little more textual information down here.
Materials.
Same thing on the hand. The hand could really, take another pass. And then on the face, I know that this is from the Stormlight books, which I have never read. I don't know this character, and I don't know what this character is described at. I am simply going to come from the side of what she looks like. Okay. Her skin is coming across as more matte. It feels almost dry, that you don't have the sort of sheen that you would normally expect or want to see on skin. A little shine, a little highlight. And that would be nice. Another thing, again, I don't know this character. Maybe this character is like half Asian? Because we've got a sort of monolid, which is just very odd to see combined with basically like Irish red hair.
It is strange, but who knows? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know the story. I don't know the character. So we're going to go with it, but we're going to put forward maybe a way to boost it.
Yeah, so you can see just adding some highlights there just gives a little more shininess to the face and gives me a little more texture information that I didn't really have. And then I do feel like either way, whatever ethnicity she is, we probably want a little more shadow under the eyes. We're kind of losing, the eyes almost feel too flat. There's not enough that spherical form being reinforced. So that was a thought on that one. And lastly, let's take a look at this dwarf character from one of Tolkien's books. I don't know which character this is. Dwarves can go in a lot of directions. This may be exactly as he's described, but I'm going to note a couple of things in case you were aiming, or anyone is aiming, for what is generally accepted as fantasy dwarf proportions and approach. Okay?
Yeah, I have been told by clients that a fantasy dwarf is not a human dwarf, like a human with dwarfism. So they're not the same proportions, which sometimes can be confusing because initially I thought they were the same, but then I was told no, the fantasy dwarf is a different thing, and a human with dwarfism is a completely different proportion. So anyway.
Okay, first thing is I'd start with the face. That's the most critical area. I don't think you want to change the render in the face, but I do think we can gain something by changing a few alignments. So some nice painting, some nice features, that's all good. Okay. But we've got this alignment with the head and a different alignment with the face. And those really need to be at right angles. So you've got that. See, if we can just get the eyes and the face on a 90-degree T, then you can feel like that is more natural. Otherwise, yeah, it just feels like the eyes and the ears are kind of off kilter. So from that, the next thing would be the mouth. So now we're getting that the mustache is starting right in the middle, but it shouldn't be starting right in the middle because we're seeing him from an angle, which means that it needs to shift to this side.
Yeah, the middle of the lip is over there.
Yeah, the middle of the lip needs to be this way. So we do that. Then the top of the head. A lot of fantasy dwarves, they don't have as much head over their eyes
have flat
as
heads.
under. Yeah. Cranium is shorter, so we can squash it down. That would get you head-wise more in the normal fantasy dwarf range. The next is the general proportions. A lot of times the fantasy dwarves, they're just stocky. We go
kind
over
of
this,
blocky.
Yeah. In the fantasy, the character illustration class, they're going to be going over this. And that means that the limbs are generally a lot thicker. And you've got a much more barrel type body.
Yeah, just
much
think
thicker.
square.
Yeah. Everything's kind of wide. And I did some copying and pasting just
It's a bit more like I always try to think of Gimli, whatever, you imagine Gimli's body type to be.
The body, see that? Squeezing the body out, getting the leg out, getting the other leg out. So we're just making him more square, making the arm thicker, making the hand. They often have really big hands compared to their body size.
To hold their big weapons.
Yeah. And then making the head itself larger compared to the overall body. So I don't know that this is meeting what you're aiming for, but I thought I would use it as just a point for, audience watching. If it's helpful to you as well, then great. But there we go. So going forwards, it's not one thing for you. I am seeing multiple times that there is posing anatomy issues. So make sure that you're really spending a lot of time going over that.
And then when you do close-ups, if you're going to do a close-up, we need more resolution, more fine tuning in
Mhm.
these areas because there's nowhere to hide. There's nothing else going on. So it's hard to not focus on these unfinished areas, right? Finishing this, and also mind your value pairs. If you have dark hair, you're trying to separate it here with this little red line, but it's not really separating it. You kind of got to pick which one is the dark one. Is it the hair or the background, right? And if you want the hair to be the darkest part, which I think is the best idea, then you should lighten the background a bit. You can do a reverse gradient, light to dark, or have, the gray to purple magic, and that's fine. Just try to separate this out. It'll create a stronger image.
Yeah, use an overall value separation. Make the whole background lighter or darker than the character.
The other thing too is one thing I noticed across your designs is kind of a simple on simple on simple for your design. So there's really not a lot going on here. And I know that you know how to do beautiful stitching. I know that you know how to, embellish the clothing. I think a little bit extra, bring in some patterns or some texture.
Now describe what simple and simple means.
Simple on simple means this is a big, simple color block, basically, that doesn't have a pattern. It doesn't have a texture per se. And it's on top of another area that's the same. This one's the same. The buttons are kind of just large shapes, but it doesn't separate this chunk from this one particularly. And the gloves are also kind of a solid, block. There's really no design on them or any details, rivets, metallics, nothing. So that would be a good thing to think about, kind of saw the same thing here with the dwarf, where it was just simple on simple on simple, no stripes, no patterns, no corduroy on linen, different materials or velvet or, brocade or satin or embroidery. Just any of that would help to break it apart and just make it more visually interesting. And I feel like you have the skills to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, Esther, we absolutely wish you the best. I'd love to see what you're going to be doing going forwards, because you have the skills to pull off everything we've been talking about. It's just challenging yourself to get that extra little bit out of each stage of the process where you're going to see the big results.
Yep. Keep going. You're doing great.
The next is David, or Dave B. And the comments here: you want to start freelancing as an illustrator soon. Would like to get some feedback. You want to work on TTRPGs, book covers, video games, anything like that. I'm more into fantasy, but you can do other things, characters, scenes, environments. Okay. Oh, no, don't hesitate to recommend a course. Okay.
Okay, first of all, I just want to give respect to David for doing complicated scenes that most people won't even try. Like, you would not get me to do this battle scene of my own free will. If a client offered this to me, which I don't know why they would, since I don't specialize in this, but if they did and they paid me, then I would be like, all right, I'll give this a shot. But you're doing it just voluntarily. You're choosing to do these multi-figure scenes. You got like 3 people here, kind of unusual vantage points, crowded market scenes. So I just want to give you respect for that. Most people will not do that.
Yeah. So from the broad view, good subject matter. I mean, we've got warriors and pirates and mind flayers and battle scenes. That's all good. I am seeing, even at this view, some significant struggle with lighting and values in trying to pull off these complex scenes. And that's totally understandable, because lighting and dynamic, moody lighting, like you're going for in a lot of these, is very tricky, and it's one of the latter things that you learn how to do well. And right now, that is one of the big things that you're learning. So, for me, it's a bit of a mixed bag because you are using a lot of good visual cues. I get a feeling what's going on. I kind of have the narrative of, what just happened and what's about to happen. So that's working. But a lot of the individual aspects aren't where they need to be to really be competitive if you're trying to look for work. Like the guy's face down here, it's not there yet. Again, I feel like I feel like it's a made up face. I feel like doesn't have the rendering that it needs to. And it's not the detail, it's the really minor forms of the face. It's really selling the expression. It's getting the color of the skin under this lighting right. It's those things. It's not, I need to see more hairs in the beard, right? It's not that kind of rendering detail. That's going to make the difference. Okay, going on. Dwarven Gladiator.
I feel like, just want to interject, this is kind of a slightly different tone from the previous one, right? So some of the other stuff appears to be more realistic in nature, more grounded. This one feels almost cartoony or more, I don't want to say like more mobile games or for children because it's of all the bright colors and the kind of the premise of it being a dwarf that's a gladiator. It feels like something that would be from one of those types of games. So I don't know if that's what you're going for, but it doesn't really kind of fit in with the vibe of the other pieces.
The same thing hits me on this, which is I'm not sure which client or property this fits for. And that it's not realistic enough because it has all these kind of big, bright colors and exaggerated nose and this sort of thing, which is fine if you lean into that. But yet we're also getting some really more realistic, like veining and little details and little grungy textural.
This is a very realistic hand.
Scratches and stuff, and that puts it in the realistic realm. And you're not really getting the benefit of either. And it's right now it's setting this. It's like an uncanny valley for stylization. Where you're going,
it's not quite one thing or the other.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't quite fit with the other stuff. So here you're going for like a more darker, realistic scene, right?
From the video, it makes it clear that you didn't really know what the story was here when you started. And that you were adapting multiple ideas, trying multiple things until you got to the idea that he is possessed and he killed this guy. That's problematic when you're going to be doing a scene that requires this much time and effort, is that you don't have a clear idea. To address that, I highly recommend you work from a brief, which is what you would be doing as a freelance illustrator anyway. We do. You can go find briefs other places. If you're wanting to find some, we wrote hundreds of them.
Yeah, we have them in the portfolio kit, which I don't know, David, if you
it's on sale right now.
If you ever bought any of our courses, then it's already there. You already have it for free. It just automatically loads into your account. But if you've never bought a course and you just want the kit, it's on sale now for $25?
Yeah, it's $25.
It's $25 right now. And that comes with 700 plus briefs. Now, when you are... Okay, it's okay to experiment and try different narratives for a personal piece. I would recommend you try that before you start coloring it. Yeah. So you make like studies and versions of the image before you start painting in stone texture, so that you can kind of experiment with the scene. But realize that doing it for a client is a very different process. instead of changing the narrative of the elements, what you're going to be doing is creating different compositions for the same narrative, which
Yeah.
is a totally different thing because you can't change the narrative when a client gives you an assignment. So that's a skill that you need to practice. Make sure you practice that as well as just creating, open personal pieces.
Mm-hmm. Okay, something we see on this one as well as the others is a room to improve the way that you're using the real estate of the canvas. And that really everything that I care about and everything that really matters in this scene exists in this 1/4 area in the middle of the scene. You could cut out all of this other stuff and I really would not lose anything of significance. So if it was me, I'd probably just crop it to that, because what am I gaining by not being able to see all the detail because it's so small?
That's what you usually say is fill the frame with the content, right?
Yeah.
So get right up on your subject. And then another thing is, again, this is more advanced stuff. So this is not like, this is a beginner mistake. No, this is advanced, difficult stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But consider, and I feel like this happened because you decided on the lighting before you decided on the narrative or the mood of the scene, which then it was already baked in. But if he has a glowing arm and he's possessed, I don't know that this sunny morning light coming through here makes a lot of sense for this scene. And then you have light on light of his armor, and it kind of makes it hard for him to stand out. That's your focal point, and it's just kind of blending in with this area.
Yeah, if the narrative is this soldier, this guard, is being possessed somehow with magic to slay his fellow soldiers, and is startled by this black cat, in the alley, it really lends to being like a moonlit scene, where that magic can really glow more. And maybe there's some torches or something. That would lean into that sort of feeling of the narrative.
I think we go over this in the illustration class, which is matching your lighting to the intent of the scene and what's going on. This is something that you would do in the dark, right? This isn't something that you would do where everybody can see you. So just thinking about it in those terms and deciding that before you jump in and bake the lighting in.
Okay, you did this for this thing that I don't know.
Artsonet Geek.
But this guy is obviously a very good craftsman. He can make a Mandalorian helmet and Captain America's shield and the Chaos Blades. Okay, so he's a good blacksmith. Lighting is what this piece will live or die by, and you're struggling with it. Now, for your own benefit, I kind of say, like, if you are up for it, do another take of it. And if you can nail this, you're one of the few, because this is tricky, man.
Yeah, a lot of people have attempted this exact scene, and it's like maybe one or two that we know of. Maybe there's more out there that actually pulled it off.
I'll show you in Photoshop in a minute what made that look like. Again, circling back to this one, do I have this one? Let me just open it in Photoshop so I can get closer. So there is some really good stuff happening.
Yeah, that head looks great.
Yeah, really nice rendering here. Good action, like the tendrils are like grabbing this dude. You got the magic coming out of his eyes. Okay, this is a good pose for this dude. This is a dance he does not want to dance, but there we go. But the problem is, it's so little.
Small.
This guy that we don't know about, that's not really doing anything, is taking up 4 times the amount of space that they are. And I really just feel like you could get all of this and just make it bigger. And you're not really losing anything to just, now, maybe there was layout reasons why you couldn't do this. I don't know. I don't know what the constraints were, but now at least we can really enjoy some of those
awesome.
details, right? Like just that. Now, it would take some serious repainting to make this other change, but this guy right now is a little passive, and it's unclear. Is he just startled and he's just standing there, because he's in essentially a just a almost an ape. He's just like static,
frozen.
Yeah.
Pose.
So is he just frozen still, or is he wanting to stop them? This guy's acting like he's throwing this flame out because this guy's about to go get him. However, I feel like if you had this guy, it's like his neck, and he's looking over that way, and his shoulders, and he had two hands down on the blade, and the sword's coming out this way, right? And he's about to lunge forwards, and two hands on the blade, and he's turned to the guy. Now we have this guy, and his motivation is clear.
And he's adding something to the scene.
Yeah.
He's supporting it.
Otherwise, he's just not really doing anything. And honestly, I would just say this, and then you could just literally crop into that, and that's again what we care about as a viewer is that area right there.
This is really very good. And also, I just want to call out that you balanced your values here really well, actually. And I don't know how you managed to achieve that here and not on other pieces, but like the contrast of values here, nothing is getting really lost. You were able to separate it pretty well, and so that this is kind of what you want to do on all of them. I'm reading the chat, and it says that you got the material rendering course and has the custom career portfolio strategy only and not the briefs, but the briefs are in there. They're part of the custom career portfolio kit.
You have to, they should be in I don't remember which step it is, but one of the steps is open that step, and there's a link to download all the files.
Yeah, just double check that it's not in one of those steps and that you missed it and didn't download it. But if you look through it all and you don't have it, then send me an email, because that's something I would want to look into and find out if
we will correct that, because they should be available.
Yeah, so if it's not there, we'll provide you with it, but let me know either way.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys, I actually feel like this would even be like a good art challenge, just to have blacksmith, a dwarven blacksmith, like doing a hammer like this.
It's come up a lot, that's why.
Because it really tests your ability to apply lighting believably to a fictional form, and also handle that really warm lighting effectively.
It's so hard to do.
So, like,
just underlighting in general usually ends it for people on a lot of pieces that it doesn't work out.
This was for Gwent. I don't know who did it. It just was listed as CD project, but what you can see up here that they're really working volumetrically, and they're not working with really small brushes. They're working by planes, right? They are dividing this up, and they're going, I know this is a plane, and that's going to be a plane, and this is the top plane, and this is a plane facing this way, and plane going back that way. And they're really thinking about each turn of every plane of the object.
Yeah, and you need to have a good reference. Yes. You better believe they have a guy lit like this, because there's just no way.
And when you're blocking it in, you start with the big planes, the secondary planes. Like, all of this is basically one value, and then all of the top of this is a value, and then all of that's a value, and then this is a different plane, and that's a brighter plane, brighter plane, brighter plane. And then you start getting smaller and smaller, but you start with the bigger ones and you work your way down. And potentially what you do is even have your swatches for the different colors of your planes and your highlights just off to the side, just to keep you on track of, okay, well, it's that much upward facing, so it would be that one. It's downward facing, so it's going to be this one. It's a highlight one, so it's going to be this one. And it just keeps everything very controlled. Also notice one of the other things that they're doing here, which is nice, is they are using a contrasting value a lot for the background, a contrasting color. So it's darker, it's lighter back here against, that darker one. This is brighter along this edge, right? So there's a nice pop out of the character against the background. And another one is this guy, right? Look at that. Again, planes, very volumetric. Planes, planes, planes.
Yeah, we're
Everything
getting
is
kind of
lit
the
very
same
well.
arrangement where the upward facing ones are kind of this orange-red tone, and the downward facing ones are more yellow, and then whatever plane is in between is a darker yellow tone in between the two.
Yep. Okay, now the last one we're going to look at is this. So let me turn these. This is where we're starting from. And there's some good stuff here. And this is a big scene. And this is a fun scene to try.
This is on my to-do list. I want to do a market scene in the next year or two when I have time. And I think I encourage everybody to do it because this comes up
Oh, yeah.
regularly. Like every so often, a client needs a market scene, public square scene, just like this.
A lot of board games need some kind of scene like this.
The marketplace, yeah.
Yep. So, the couple of different things. One is the perspective is a little questionable in places. And I did not run all the perspective lines to check the accuracy of the perspective. But our eye line ought to be right about here because this is going down. And these are all going up, so it's going to be somewhere in between there, and I feel like I'm about level with that guy's head. Okay. And I feel like I'm looking down on everything below that. But it also feels like I'm looking down quite a bit on this. So, I don't know. You might want to check that. Even if you don't change anything with that, then a lot more can be got out of the values and the colors, where this is getting very grayed out. It's just a lot of gray. Everything, even the areas like up here that is apparently receiving direct sunlight, just is very muted. It's below 50% gray. And areas here in the foreground that should have pretty good resolution are really dark. So we just look at the levels for this scene, and you see that almost all the values in this scene in what should be a bright, colorful marketplace is all down in the last 30%. So we want to try to brighten it up, and I did a rough paint over. It is not complete. It's just a starting point. So we could use a levels and just moving the values up. Okay, let's get back to some colors, some values. And then this little hard light layer in order to infuse some color into the shadows. Now you've got something good back here, which is the color right here. And the bluish in the shadow there and the warm in the lit here, that's good. We can run with that. Make sure a little bit more blue is in some of the other shadows. But a lot of it's going to require this, which is just hand painting. Okay. To get that sunny feel, you've got to have quite a bit of value range between the lit and the shadowed areas. But because most of the scene is shadowed, you want to essentially expose the shadows. That means that the things in the shadows is where you get the purer color, and the things in the light essentially get almost washed out.
Yeah, and why, again, just want to point out, why are we favoring the colors and the shadows as the pure colors. Why are we exposing for the shadow? Because you've chosen to put most of the scene in shadow. That's why. So if it was the other way, then we would expose for the light, and we would put most of the mid-tone values in the light side, the colors in the light side, and compress the shadows, right?
Yes.
So just don't forget about that. And it depends on how you light your scene, the ratio of light to dark, or lit to shadow.
So the rest of that can actually go back up a little bit. So that gives you a little direction of kind of how it could go. And like here, if you wanted to have the cool and the shadow, you don't necessarily have to blend it into every color. And oftentimes that doesn't look great, because if you just blend blue into orange, you get gray, which isn't fun. So what you can do is just literally commit to it being blue. You just make the edge blue. There we go. And that's fine. It's an illustrative way of handling it that keeps purer colors. So hopefully that gives an idea there. Some of the pieces that we thought about was like this one by Kate Burmack. Nice market scene. You see how much color we're getting from everything.
This is more of an overcast lighting.
Yeah, it doesn't actually match with the direct light we're getting.
It's kind of everything is in shadow. Like you're not getting a direct, bright light on anything. So everything is just exposed to be colorful in the shadows. So everything is colorful. You're getting a lot of pure color. Nothing's getting gray or dark or dingy. So that's doable too. But because on your scene you set a very, very direct area of light, you have to deal with the colors and the shadows in a different way. They can't be as even as on Kate Burmack's. Oh, this is a better comparison. Yeah,
so this is a very clear shadow, light pattern, bright colors, and it really gives that vibrancy of kind of the commotion of the scene outdoors in a place like this. And it's not trying to be realistic, it's trying to be illustrative, and that's fine. A lovely piece.
This one's mostly lit though. So looking at this, you can see the shadow is really kept to a small percentage of the form, except for this guy. This guy and this part of the floor here is in shadow, right? But everything else is pretty much, this guy's in shadow. Everything else is totally lit, and you're only getting that small band of contrast. So here, it's exposed for the shadow, or for the light. So you get all the rich color in the light, and the darks are all compressed, right? So just something to keep in mind. And that's by Dean Cornwell, right?
Yes.
So if you want to look up that artist, you can go look up his work.
And I just saw this one. You see how there isn't necessarily even one color to white. So the stone in this scene is basically white, or just really light gray. And in some areas, it's nice and cool, right? You see the cool light hitting over here and over here. But in areas where it's near bounce light, like here, it's getting immediate bounce light coming up there. And then up under here, like it's getting nice and warm. This is another way that artists can infuse a lot of color into their scene and into what people would normally start treating as kind of just gray shadows on a white object. Okay, see the comment there about not finding it. And right after the stream, I'm going to go out there and take a look at that, because it might be that when I was making some changes in the back end, something got...
It's supposed to be there. Yeah. So if anyone watching this, if you're missing files from a class or from... we haven't had any complaints, so again, we don't know.
Yes, first I've heard of it.
If you're missing files from your portfolio kit, then just send us an email. That's not... everything is supposed to be there. So it's some error in the module, which happens because we have lots of copies of different modules because we have different course combinations. So yeah, just let us know if you're missing anything.
And Erica, you had a question. Is the portrait course still on the horizon? Yes, it is. Yes. I'm working on it right now.
He's working on it every day.
So it will be in the near future. I don't have a date set for it because I'm still having to juggle several different projects. But yeah, I'm working on it, and it shouldn't be that long out. Yeah. Okay. But as far as David, yeah, I think we covered all the major notes we had here, and you've got a lot of the skills. You're struggling a lot with just visual narrative, using the scene, and lighting. For the lighting, you don't have to do a whole big scene to practice it. You don't have to have details. Like you can just treat these as simple meeples. You don't have to have face details. Like if you just want to practice
Just cylinders and blocks.
yeah, the values and the colors, that's fine. Because if you can make it work on that level, you can just scale up the detail later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing good on the path that you're on, David. Like I know where you're going. If you have the means, the ability to take one of the courses, maybe just wait until a sale to get the fantasy illustration class.
Mm-hmm.
We run sales on those regularly, or if you get it in a bundle, it's discounted.
Yep.
Or if you're on a tighter budget, $25, you can get the portfolio kit, and there'll be briefs in there. And I would just start working from briefs, and this is what we tell everybody: start with a couple of single character scenes, just one character standing there looking cool or doing something by themselves. Once you can nail the lighting, the colors, the values, then scale up.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely do need to scale up. So in the past, we would say, hey, everybody, just stay where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
But now the reality of the industry and the market is that the clients, they always want more. They want more complexity, and they want people to do multi-figure scenes. So, you eventually do need to end up there.
So what we mean by that, I'll take 1 minute and show you. So these are not mine. These are just pictures I've saved. So totally, if you can hit something like this, then you can probably start finding some work. Mm-hmm. As far as just one person full length standing there with a couple of associated props. White
awesome.
Background. It's not really dynamic lighting. You're not trying to set a mood. It's just showcasing a cool character for something. Okay, can you do that? Great. Do several of those, not one. You do several of those to prove consistency. Minimum 3, probably more. Then scale up to characters with backgrounds. So now we've got this. This is very different because now what we have is you have to create a lighting setup that is consistent for the character and the environment. Then you have to start bringing in compositional elements. You're having to set times of day, atmospherics. You're having to do composition between background elements, balancing against the human figure. So just single characters.
Yeah, this is what I call like the gateway to the scenes. This is what, I focused on for a while, and I really recommend do these. People love these, they look great, and if you can do these without any obvious errors, like everybody makes mistakes, okay? There's little mistakes in every piece, in my pieces, but if there's no major errors, then consider scaling up to doing interactions between 2 or more characters.
Yeah, and that's when you get to actual MTG scenes. You have multiple characters. You're probably getting architecture, more dynamic lighting. Maybe there's a battle between multiple people. This sort of stuff. Okay, and then that would be the progression. And we're seeing that if you can scale up to this level, you're likely to get a lot more work because there's more of this work to be had, and it pays more than the other stuff.
And also, guys, go on Instagram and ArtStation and you see tons of art, right? And you see tons of people who are doing stuff, complex stuff. But in the entire marketplace, there aren't actually that many people who can do multi-figure scenes well. Yep. There's a really small number. You may see a lot of complex stuff in curated spots or because of your algorithm, but in the real world, out of 1,000 applicants, there is 10 or less that can actually do this well. So that's what the numbers are. And I think maybe even that is being generous.
Mm-hmm. Next one is Ruin. That's anyway the name that you were going by on the Discord. Would love if I get a review of this piece I made. Trying to improve as best as I can, so any feedback would appreciated. Often goodbye, Ruin. Okay, so let's open this in Photoshop. Ruin. The first and possibly the most significant thing for the improving of this piece is clarifying the narrative, because it is unclear what is going on and what I'm supposed to get out of this as a viewer, what I'm supposed to be understanding. We've got a lady laying in the surf who's on fire, surrounded by crows, but she doesn't seem to be disturbed by this fact. So the concept of what this scene is, the story of what this scene is really kind of overriding any of the technical aspects of how well is it painted.
Well, a lot of people come to us. It's happened many times where people come to us with one image and they say, how can I improve this, or how can I make this better? And it's hard to answer that when you don't know the intent. So we didn't get that much information about this, about what it is supposed to be. Is it a book cover? Does it mean something else? Is this a character with some backstory that we're not aware of? So we just don't know, and I can't tell from looking at it what the intention is, or what the narrative is meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand this object back here. I don't know the significance of it. Or a person being wet but also on fire in this way, but not in pain. So it's kind of, I don't know. We can't say, oh, this is what you do, this is how you improve it, when I don't know what you're trying to say. So I guess we could just critique it, or maybe give you some pointers from just purely a rendering standpoint, because I don't know the intention of the image.
Yeah. In that way, I can kind of just review it as if it's a real art. And if that's the case, then we can look at just how things are being painted. It feels overall like it is a little unfinished. There are areas that certainly have more refinement, such as the face. And I'd say the face is fine for now. That's the least of concerns. There's other elements like the birds and the rocks in some of the water that feel like they should be minor focal points, but they're really just not developed enough to appreciate, in this case, like there are crows. Crows have really kind of interesting, almost iridescent black sort of feathers and colors.
Coloration, yeah.
And you can get some really neat shapes and textures and water interaction and stuff in surf like this. We lived in Portugal for a while, and we went down to the beach and we saw the little puddles, and it feels like there's a lot more that you can do down there visually that would make it more interesting to look at. As far as the character, if you want to say character design, I have no idea who this character is, but right now her costume,
it's a slip.
Her slip is just visually quite bland. So is there something that you could do to help inform the viewer as to what period of time is this?
Is she shipwrecked? But then why is she on fire?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to understand. Just on a technical standpoint, though, from the slip is I'm assuming, I don't know, like, again, you're not here. I don't think you're in the chat. Let me know if you are. But if you're trying to convey that it looks like you're putting speculators here, like she's wet, right? Her skin is wet. So if this is all wet, then this fabric would be a lot more like this tone, this transparency on the parts where it's touching her. And it would be more solid white, right, on the parts that are kind of not touching her, right? Because that's when you wet white fabric, it kind of glues itself to your skin. It kind of goes sort of transparent.
It goes more transparent where it's contacting the skin. And what you can start is doing like basically just the semi-transparent version of it. And then go back over it. Anywhere that it overlaps itself
Like
or is standing up
Mm-hmm.
from the skin. So here it's probably thicker right along the edge. So maybe we can do that, and we can introduce just a little shadow underneath. This is a pretty low resolution image.
Oh yeah, I want to point out, people in the chat, the portrait class is coming. It's coming soon. I don't want to say the date because then invariably I'll jinx it and it'll be wrong, but it's coming really soon. It's almost ready. So yeah, keep an eye out. Although I'm sure we'll announce it in the newsletter and in the Discord, so don't worry about missing it.
Yeah, no, and I'll probably make a video for the channel as well, make posts out there. So this area that is not touching the skin directly, that is going to shift back to white more. And then anywhere that is folded up and is making like a ripple, that's going to start becoming more transparent again. I mean, white. So you're going to get kind of that, which is in a lot of the places actually reversed from what you have. So that would be something. The last thing I'll point out up here is I suggest either removing the lightning or leaning into the storm. So right now the sky is too bright for the lightning to really be visible. So if we had a little smaller. Let me set that darken. There we go. If we had the sky darker, then we can come in here and take out some lightning, and we have some value for it to contrast against. Otherwise, it's pretty difficult to see it. So you might want to do something more on that line. And then obviously you need some like layers of clouds or something if you want more of that feel back there. Yeah.
Just a heads up, anyone submitting a single image or that wants a review or help on one image, please try to include some information just to let us know what is it for, what's the purpose, what are you trying to say with it, what's the narrative, and that way we'll have a better understanding in order to give you some feedback on how to improve it if we know what you're trying to do with it.
Number 5 is Tess. Tess said you discovered the channel watching, you've been watching for many years. Well, thank you, Tess. Also would love a request. Never had a professional critique before. You work as a game artist, but want to start doing some freelance illustration. No pressure since you already have, money from your job. Okay, but want to evolve your skills. Tess, you're probably in the best position to actually do freelance, which is not having the stress of trying to start a career immediately. Monetize it, yeah. So I don't know what you are doing on your daily basis, who you're working for, or what that work looks like. Glancing through your work, it looked like a lot of this stuff was older, yeah. So it's not really worth looking at stuff that's 5 years old or older, which is most of this. So
this is the recent, more. I think it's starting at the next one.
Yeah,
it's more
coming
recent.
Back this way. Yeah. Not sure what clients you're aiming for. So that is one of the things of. Yeah, you want to do freelance. I don't know who you want to freelance for, what properties you want to do, because that would definitely change what feedback we would give, because, point you in a different direction.
And, okay, I just want to go on a tangent on that note, just briefly. And this is, I think, something that causes a lot of confusion for people, is that we often say, hey, you need to, if you want to work with a certain client, you got to target them and make stuff that fits the clients that you want to work for. And inevitably or invariably, someone will say, or someone will bring to my attention, oh, well, what about this exception, right? Like, this artist doesn't fit that style and they did work for magic. You know, Abigail Larson doesn't render and she did magic cards. So, okay, I just want to say there are exceptions, of course, but a lot of those people are like kind of big viral stars, like someone like Abigail Larson or some of these other people that do these one-off magic cards. They have like 250,000 followers and they're kind of famous, you know, to some extent. And so sometimes the brands will make exceptions for them. They'll let them do their style on their brand because the person, the name, the artist is the brand in itself. It's like a crossover almost. That's how they treat it. And so they get to do that because of having that following and that branding on their own already. But if you're just, you know, and you can certainly take that approach and say, you know what, I don't want to do anyone's style but mine. I'm committing to my style and I want the clients to come to me. And it's like, you can do that, but then you have to go all in and invest the same amount of time that these other people have into building a following and getting your name out there and getting your style out there. Now, most people don't want to do that. So what we say then is like, okay, it's faster and more focused to just target the client that you want. Instead of like trying to become a viral superstar, maybe easier to just say, okay, I want to work for Hearthstone. I'm going to make 6 Hearthstone style images, and that might be the faster way to get in.
Yeah. Okay, you obviously have a sort of stylized, more colorful approach. There's some very clean rendering going on here. That's good to see. Yeah, this one, it's a clean painting, and it also is sort of setting in this halfway between realistic and stylized, in that it's reminiscent of Hearthstone in some areas, but hasn't really committed to the stylized direction of it, nor to the whole colorful nature of it. So some of it has this very subdued, kind of overcast gray lighting setup, but then we also have a fairly distinct light on it and bright oranges and yellows. So there's an odd combination there. You obviously can draw well. You're thinking three-dimensionally. The things are being lit with nice volume lighting on them. Yeah, there's some good painting in here. Some nice little texturing up here, especially get right into the fur.
Look at that nose.
I know, you got like a little texture on the nose. Values here do make it a little muddy. Like, we're basically getting the same value at the same saturation in the background as the foreground. I feel like you would gain more by just making the background a little bit lighter so that it's kind of shifting into silhouette. You don't need to make this darker. You just make that
You might need to make
lighter.
that lighter. That looks very dark.
The value control there with the value pairs, that could be improved without needing to mess with all the detailed areas. And again, like this, it feels like it is a personal piece because I don't know who this would be for, and it's not realistic enough for, say, D&D or Magic or Pathfinder if you're looking at those guys. But I also don't feel like it's kind of the stylized mobile art, League of Legends direction either. So going forwards, if you're wanting to get the freelance commissions, then really have it in mind, like, who is it, which client specifically are you looking for, We need a couple of pieces that really nail that.
Yeah, I think, well, that goes to my point from earlier, which I think it's easier to get them to hire you if you meet them where they are than expecting them to take you as you are, kind of like to take your style as it is. And that's just true for a majority of clients.
Oh, I pulled up this one. I know it's a little older, but I'm going to point out a few things here, and maybe it applies to some other people watching as well. So this one is the piece that stood out to me as being very close to Hearthstone. I don't think it's there yet, but if I were you, I was looking at freelance work. That would be one of the properties I would be considering, or somebody that has a very similar look to that. Having worked at Hearthstone, I recognize some of the aspects. There are a couple of pieces from Hearthstone that are already pretty similar as far as like blue background, red magic, nice dark, some stylized big shoulder pieces. Right? These are iconic elements of Hearthstone, and I think yours could probably get to that level if you leaned into some of the stuff. As far as your character right now, I would start with a few things if you could push it further. One is with the pose. Just with the center of gravity, she's falling over. Like she's leaning so hard forwards that it doesn't feel correct anymore. And we've got the head really turned back and arching the back. I'm all for like pushing the pose and getting a good gesture out of the pose. But there's a point at which the character would no longer be stable in that position. So I would suggest doing that, as well as giving a pass to the face. And like this may be your normal style, but I did a paint over, just example, kind of what it would look like if we stepped it towards the Hearthstone side. So let me turn on some layers, starting with like leaning her back and then shifting her arm out more, shifting that leg out. So she's a little more stable with her pose. You still have the curvature of the body and the, everybody's, every element's kind of still doing the same thing. Brightened it up. We were getting pretty dark in some of the areas. Then coming into the face and doing work there. So this is more of what you might expect for Hearthstone and for the sort of mobile games that I feel like a lot of your rendering is close to. And for that, you're wanting to make them more well lit in the face. And particularly through here, the nose is getting pretty muddy. We're getting a lot of contrast, kind of a gray tone, kind of a muddy tone in the shadows. So just trying to brighten that up, making the nose, not emphasizing that shadow shape on the side, and making the eyes really big.
Yeah, it's like you had that shoulder piece stylized. You had a lot of stylization going on in here. And when you do that, people kind of expect the cartooniness in the face too.
Yeah.
So just go for it if it's something you enjoy, that stylized look.
And for that, I was looking at another reference, another character in a very similar angle. So taking some inspirations from that as far as the shapes and everything. I feel like that's the direction that I would go in if I had your skills of what I'm seeing from this. I don't know what you normally do on a day-to-day basis, but that's some ideas.
I hope that was helpful. Okay, we've got one portfolio left. I just want to read one question before we go to that. I have a question about working from the briefs. How much do you recommend using briefs one wouldn't normally use or be comfortable using?
Well, it's really what we talked about on the other piece. for the other artists, which is start with something that you're comfortable with as far as the scale and the subject. So it might be just the standalone character. You go to the section in the kit that is for just D&D and Pathfinder, right? And find a standalone character in there. Then once you do that, go to one like from MTG section that's the character in front of the, the background. But if do end up pushing yourself, but if you're like, I've never practiced characters, but I'm going to do a multi-figure character scene from a brief.
It might not be the best use of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's a subject you're not familiar with, go down to the
Scale
less
down.
complex.
Yeah. It's more of like once you're familiar and you're not making major errors, then step it up. And we do encourage people to step it up because that's what we're encouraging our own team to do now. The clients are always asking for more complex things nowadays. And if you can deliver that competently, then you'll get a lot of offers for work.
Let's clarify something here. This is the last one. We're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. But we recommend working from a brief because the ability to work from a brief and to translate somebody else's idea of a scene into an image is a separate ability from just being able to paint an image. Those are not one and the same. All right. So you need to practice how do you be creative within the constraints of this brief. And you can't just do anything to resolve the problem. You have to use certain things, certain visual options are available and certain are not. And you can't change the brief to match the image. You have to change the image to match the brief. And that's the challenge that people need to be able to overcome before they can work consistently in a career. The last person is Ailey. I don't know how you pronounce that name.
I don't know if it's Ala or Ayla. So we're sorry if we're saying it wrong.
Oh yeah. You had a couple of, not sure how to grow from here. Trying to work in games and entertainment as a concept artist and illustrator. Trying to identify my strengths and weaknesses. I think I can make my compositions more interesting. Unsure how my rendering is coming out, if I'm overworking stuff, if it looks fine, unsure where to focus on my skill set. Okay, so we'll take a look at this. First, you have your own web page divided into topics. Okay. We've got visual development. Under visual development, we have illustrations. Okay. I'm not familiar with the property, but these were done for the property. Okay. From this view, what I'm already getting is that it feels like you're tackling something over your skill level. To do this well requires a lot of individual skills. You need to know perspective, lighting, shading. You know how to paint trees. You need to know character and creature design. There's a lot of stuff. And for as much skill as I see here, I'm also seeing some elements kind of getting dropped and not hitting the level they need to. Same thing here. This is a complex thing to do well. And I think even from just these scenes, I think you need to pull back the complexity of what you're getting, what you're attempting here. Because if we're getting basic errors, then that means we need to back up and correct those before we move forwards. Okay, we got more scenes from this project.
I also think that this client gave you a lot of impossibly hard things to do.
Yeah.
And that the complexity of these, what's going on in these images is not helping you. yeah, this would be hard for anyone. But I feel like this is a big ask.
Yeah, because you're doing, do a group of people in front of a house with people in the foreground with spears, with like this strange beast god thing that's a giant walking over. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of work to pull that off effectively.
Hmm.
Okay, and we got this. Okay. Again, this feels a little rough. I get the idea, but I'll say it this way. You've got a 3D render back here from some pre-made assets. But that only works if we are matching the styles in the rendering between them both. And right now there's a discrepancy between the clean 3D render of these and the very texture brushy hand painted approach here. It is going to be better to, if it was me, I would take these out so that it's at least just focusing on the thing that you did of what you're bringing, and that what you're bringing is consistent to itself in all of its approach. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got kind of a mixed bag of things. Again, I'm going to say to you what we say to a lot of others, which is we've kind of got too much of a mixed bag.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lasso style, kind of stylized environment. This is trying to be more realistic with a 3D render. We had the previous scenes that I think were trying to be realistic. We've got line drawings, things. I think these watermarks are a bit aggressive. I can't even see your drawings because the watermark is so big. And then we've got something that looks like it's for an animation background maybe. So they're kind of all different things. And again, I think you would do well to focus your attention in one direction. Now, I looked at some of your other work here too. So you've got your children's book work and your characters and creatures. Now, this is just an opinion, right? All we do is give our opinion, and you are free to disregard it and say, I don't care about that. I'm going to do what I want to do. But since you asked for our feedback, I'm going to give you my opinion. Right now, if you're talking about being competitive in the industry and getting regular work, if it were me, the area in your portfolio that is closest to that is highest in quality and finish are your animals and your creatures. So this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And I feel like if you focused your attention in this area and you specialized and you created not just a creature, here's a creature, but where does the creature live? Just a small, not a huge environment scene, just a small contained environment. Just little drawings of what does the creature eat? What other little plants or creatures do they eat? Where is their home? Just a small, some concepts, some drawings of the tree they live in, or the nest they live in, or the, coral under the sea that they live in, but contained. I think that would be a good way to get to a competitive level faster, is my opinion. I just feel like you're closer here, and this stuff, your characters are not competitive. I feel like they're still very far away from being competitive, and your environments and these full illustrations are not competitive. And this takes a long time to get good at this, like you've seen in previous portfolios where we have people that are close, they're almost there, but they're maybe still another year or two away, and you're even further away than that. So if it were me, I would focus on the strongest area if you want to get into the industry faster rather than later.
Yeah.
But that's an opinion.
If you're wanting to do scenes, well, let me put it this way. Here we are with this scene. This scene is about really two things. If we want to talk about just technical, it is about perspective, because that's the main visual. It's not lighting, right? Lighting is not the main thing here. It's perspective and interior design is what it is. But we're getting problems on both of those counts, and I'll walk you through. Not to, again, I'm not doing this to be mean, but you're asking like, where are the issues and what can I do to improve? One is you do need to study some perspective, and we don't have a perspective course at the moment.
No.
But there's a lot of videos, a lot of books out there on it. I'm sure you can find somebody. And it's one of those things that until you understand it and can implement it correctly, it's best to avoid doing scenes that have it as the crucial element in the scene. Here, the horizon line is right about here. I say that because it looks like we're pretty much looking down on anything below that line. I'm looking down on all this stuff, and I'm looking up at everything over that line, and we're also looking at the way that things are angling. That, like, this is basically angling up a little bit, and these are angling down, and eventually they would meet at this level. Okay, from there we can run guidelines. Now, you have to pick something as being the correct, in which case this seemed most consistent to itself. So we're saying that that will be our standard, and we're running all the lines out. So some of this is working with each other well, but some of it isn't. So like this is fine. This is matching the same perspective we have over here, but these aren't. So these are going off at a different angle, right? And this is going off at a different angle, where that would be going upwards, coming up this way, right? And that would be coming down. So make sure that all of this stuff is running correctly with each other. And then we also have to think not only about this is running that direction, following the guidelines, but what about the z-axis? Now the z-axis is the front to back. It's the depth, right? And we're having some breakdown in the z-axis. This is what we go over in the form drawing course. So we understand if we have an x-ray vision of this cylinder, that it's like this. And then we know that the wall is back there. So the center of this, right, would be that far away from the wall. There's a little room for that, the back side of the cylinder.
This tube is in the middle of this cylinder, right? At least that's what it appears to be.
Yeah, it should be that we could see a little of the top going behind there. A little of that going behind there. So that's in the middle of this, which is right above here. And we're coming up and going over and we're coming up. But wait a second. We're going straight into the wall. Where in actuality, we still have a foot out from the wall.
And we're looking at it from this side.
Yeah, and we're looking at it from an angle over here. So we should be able to see the side of that. So we should be getting something like this, where there's a turn to go back to the wall to make up for that extra distance. And we also have some curvature issues of this. Like, this is going to be a cylinder, and we're looking at it from a 3/4 angle. So we got to have that side. Here we're running into some other things, like if we can see the side of this box, then we need to be able to see the same amount of side of that box. And we need to be able to see the underside of this curve, because we can see the underside of this, right?
Box, yeah.
And in the same way that we see the underside of this. And we need to be able to see the inside of that. And the center of this is going to be centered in perspective. So it's going to be off over here. So this just indicates like there is a familiarity with how to run perspective lines, but not how to be completely consistent with them and then take that into the z-axis, which would be the perspective lines going back. Hold off on doing scenes until you get this, because even natural scenes like this sort of thing is going to make use of that. And everybody's scale has to play together correctly with all of that, and with people and everything. Even nature scenes have to follow proper perspective.
I know I said to focus on the animals and the creatures as like the best strategy to get competitive faster. But if you really love environments, if you really love interiors and houses and stuff like that, I really do recommend taking a class. We don't have that kind of class, but maybe go look at somebody like, I don't know if Tyler Edlin has a current class, but maybe go look at him. His people seem to come out with good things. Mm-hmm. And Charles Lynn might have a class on Brainstorm or at Brainstorm School. And if he doesn't, go look at the Foundation Group materials on ArtStation Marketplace. There's a lot of, go look at Charles Lynn's tutorials on designing houses and drawing them. And like with some of this stuff, you really do benefit from having somebody teach you.
Yes.
It's just very hard to correct these things on your own when you don't know what the correct version looks like. So it's hard for you to know where your mistakes are. So I recommend that if it's something you really love and want to pursue, it's worth investing in. That stuff from Foundation Group is not expensive at all.
No.
So consider at least taking a look at it. If you want to learn kind of what Clint was talking about in the form drawing perspective issues that you're having in the other scene, consider his form drawing course too. That's all about just drawing the objects by themselves. Mm-hmm. And you might want to start there too if you're, wanting to be able to do that consistently without errors before scaling up to a full environment.
Yeah. We talk about perspective a little bit in that course to give the general idea, but we're not running perspective lines for everything in that course. We just use kind of an intuitive perspective because we're working on an individual object basis rather than full scenes. So this one, I'm going to make just a couple of notes on this one, and then we will probably be wrapping it up. Anybody that's watching, if you have any questions, since we won't be going, this will be the last piece we're looking at. If you have any questions you want answered, go ahead and put them in the chat right now so that once we're done talking about this, we'll make sure to answer your question before we...
Hi, Tim. Hi, Dan. Nice to see you guys.
Again, sometimes we answer this stuff, and we have to have fairly broad answers because we don't know where you want to go with your interests. And if you are wanting to go the sort of viz dev direction, you like kind of the stylized, environments and setting, almost viz dev kind of key art sort of stuff, it's a completely valid direction. That there is work to be had that direction. You do still need perspective. We are getting some odd perspective going on here that doesn't really match the rest of the building. And then this is also where some form drawing comes in, because we're getting this kind of working in a really odd way where, again, we have to do a curve in perspective, but then the other part has to come out, and then this part has to come back. So in the same way that you have like this arching out, we have to do the same thing for this one, except we're not going to see the inside of both sides. Right, we've got to get something more like that. It's a little closer over here. Again, we're going to kind of get overlap and see the inside of that one. right? Something along that line. Then the other thing that you want to look at, and you could start, if you're going, hey, down the road, that's what I want to do, then practice scenes like this, right? So the difference here is we're getting a lot more control of the colors, the values. We are getting a lot more plane separation. And the easy thing, you're not the first and you're not the 10,000th person to run into this, which is we're getting this kind of vague purple, just kind of everywhere. And it's because we don't have a clear idea of what the lighting setup here is, and we're not committing to it being warm, we're not committing to it being cool, and what we end up is just kind of this grayish, purplish tone everywhere. So the good guys who do VizDev are all about being able to create lots of nice color. Look how blue we're getting back here, how nice and bright we're getting here, a little overexposed, but it's okay. And we're getting some nice cool colors here, but it's all in the shadow. This is more finished, more detailed than what you've got.
That's Jeremy Fensky.
Yeah, beautiful piece. This piece has long been one of my inspirations. And you can see that he's having a lot of control of the values. This has one distinct value and saturation range. And then as it's coming forward, everything's getting a little darker, but nothing's lost to black. Even this down here isn't black.
It has lots of color in it.
Yeah. And there's clear visual separation between like this group and this group. And he creates that light beam between this object and this object. So we have a nice space between them. He's using shadow kind of silhouettes over this, but other parts have nice three-dimensional lighting. So doing studies of scenes like that, or doing like your scene and then going, I want to completely just use this lighting and color on my scene. I'm just going to steal it for practice, right? For practice. And one-to-one. And by doing that, you're going to start realizing things about the combination of values, the combination of colors. Yeah, that'll be really good. Okay, that's all of the...
Good advice. Are you guys selling Swatches merch by any... What kind of merch do you want? You have to tell us. I don't know. We have these t-shirts, but we only have like 4.
Oh, yeah.
We have 4 of them because we made them for Lightbox, but we didn't sell any merch. We didn't make any merch. I didn't know if anyone would want to wear a branded t-shirt, or maybe you mean something else and not a t-shirt. I don't know, but let us know if you want merch. What kind of merch? I'd be open to it. Yeah. I just don't know what people want, and I haven't really given it much thought. You want like a notebook or a sweatshirt or like a hoodie or something? I don't know. A mug? I don't know what people want. Everything. He wants everything.
Why don't you just design everything and
Swatches,
then he can pick and choose what he wants?
Swatches branded stuff. He wants to live and breathe Swatches. That's really nice of you. I appreciate that. I don't know. We might make something. It depends on if the demand is there. Otherwise, it's some effort to set that up.
Okay. Yeah, we've got the portrait classes in the works. There's another unnamed course that is also in the works, and they will both be coming out reasonably soon. And we've got...
There was going to be hoodies 5 years ago. Oh, I feel called out. Oh my gosh. Did we say? We probably said that. Yeah. All right, I'll make a note for hoodies because I feel guilt tripped now.
Well, we will find somebody online that can print and ship them because we're certainly not doing that ourselves.
We can't do that. We don't have the setup. But yeah, maybe we can find a third party to fulfill those types of orders. I just, on that note, I want to ask one more thing. Do you just mean like with like this with the logo, or like are you thinking of some kind of design? I don't know. I got caught. I did. Yeah.
So for February, we got 2 sales going on. One is some materials. You can save $40 on that course. It does come with the kit, which I will double check to make sure has all of its stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also just get the kit by itself, which we didn't really go into it. But if you guys have any questions, concerns about creating a art career plan, creating a portfolio of a concept art or illustration, that is where we dumped all of our combined knowledge. We spent considerable amount of time putting together a massive amount of information.
I think it's still valid and still
it is
applicable. I haven't yet seen anything that would invalidate anything that we've said in it. So
no, it's still really good, and image selection is a major factor in getting jobs. And so that's why we created over 700 briefs for concept art and illustration that give subjects and briefs of what sort of things that you would be asked to do and what the client would want to see. And you can literally just use those to just paint the images in those scenes in your portfolio, and you're going to vastly increase the odds of that hitting a good mark with a potential client.
I can tell you this, and I don't mean it as like, oh, we're patting ourselves on the back or whatever. That's not how I mean it. But I have seen people get a lot of attention and success through images that they made, either based on our portfolio briefs or from briefs in our illustration class. So there have been like several students or participants in the purchasers of the kit that have found success from doing those briefs, those images, and have gotten like more attention out of those images than they got on any other image. So they work, is what I'm saying. No, we didn't do the work for them; they did the work. But having the right brief can certainly help.
And if you make any images from those briefs, it's totally yours, right? Even though we wrote the brief, it's your image. We don't own it. We don't have any claim over it, right? It's just to help you guys. Okay.
The hoodie was through YouTube with only I guess that was you said there would be hoodies. I do think I said that at some point as well.
Yeah. Years back, I was putting a lot more time into YouTube, and I had memberships and membership only streams and stuff. And I think I did or planned to have hoodies, but it just ended up like I was not making enough money from YouTube, so I stopped putting that much time into it.
Okay, I'm gonna make a note and find out if we can get someone to fulfill that, because we can't do it out of our house.
We'll find those people
and put that out there for you guys. Yeah, maybe Redbubble. Are most of you in the chat, are you in the United States? Because I don't even know now with tariffs, it's too hard to do this overseas. But if you're in the US, we could probably do it. Okay, any last questions before we wrap up? We know we're on like a few minutes delay, so we'll wait.
If you got I'll fill it here with a question. Quick. Let me pull something up. And
I also want a disclaimer. I am not getting paid to endorse any of these other schools or teachers. Okay, they are not in contact with us. We have no connection besides just knowing about them. So if I recommend someone, it's because I know they're creating good content, but other than that, this is like not sponsored or anything.
If you made it all the way to the end of this and you're interested in a review after we've said all these things to all these people, you also can get a free review. You just go to swatchesacademy.com. Right there in the top, it says portfolio reviews. You click on that. and you put in your basic information, link to your work. Let us know kind of what your goal and your direction is. What are you trying to achieve? What kind of clients? Are you just a hobbyist? That's fine too. Just let us know what kind of subject matter you're interested in. And is there a particular issue or issues? Like I'm really struggling to get the anatomy right, or the problem with the values, or whatever. This will just help us to tailor the feedback to be more useful for you.
Also, I know a lot of people have signed up through this already, and they're probably wondering, when am I going to get my review? And we're working our way through them. We just had a few to clear off of Discord that were older.
Yep.
And we're going to pick up on these and start clearing through these as well. So the next session, I think we're going to start going through the ones submitted on the website. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like most people here asking about it are in the US. So, okay, we will look into the merch thing.
Okay. Well, we're already gone long today, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Don't have another live stream scheduled, but we should have another one pretty soon, maybe next Monday. We'll see what the schedule is like next Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we hope that you found something useful to implement. We appreciate everyone who submitted their portfolios. We hope that you took everything constructively.
It was
That's
meant.
how it was meant.
It was meant to be helpful always. Yeah, we have no. There is no ill intent, or we're not trying to make you feel bad at all. I know it's hard. Sometimes you just feel bad anyway when you're getting a crit. I certainly did. But just know that we are trying to help you with what you've described that you wanted help with.
Yeah.
And that you're doing the right thing by seeking out help. You know, a lot of people are just too scared or too sensitive, and so they never get a review. They never get the feedback they need to solve some of their problems, and they just stagnate for years and years. So you know, it's a brave thing, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we wish you all the best. We'll catch you next time.